In media and like pop culture in general, a lot of the time stuff starts coalescing with each other and kind of like finding common ground. From stuff like Fortnite collaborating with every single IP known to man, music genres fusing to make new subgenres, or in the case of today's video, the history between hip hop and comic books. Also, anyone who gets mad at me, let me quickly just say, yes, I'm going to be using superhero comics and comic books in general interchangeably. I know that there's a lot of comics that don't have superheroes in them and vice versa, but like, if you've got a problem, sorry, I guess. Anyways, comic books and rap music have shared a lot of common ground for years, with each showing the other love, and as someone who exists in both worlds, for like lack of a better term, I thought it'd be fun to talk about the links that they share. Rappers using comic book imagery, comic book projects having rappers involved. You get the gist, you're smart. Now, before we really start exploring this, I want you to think of a rapper for me. It doesn't have to be your favorite, they could be from any era, niche, whatever. Now, the chances are that the rapper you've thought of has either directly shown love to comics through their art, worked with comic companies, or even based their whole persona off of a comic book character. Can you guess who I'm talking about on that last one? No, but seriously, I'll put examples on screen as I list these guys off. But you've got MF Doom, Lil Uzi Vert, Childish Gambino, all of Wu-Tang, Outkast, Eminem, Travis Scott, and if I continued, I'd be here all day. The point is, rappers love comics, and with stuff like Marvel Comics having variant covers that pay tribute to rap albums, the love there is definitely mutual. When it comes to links between hip hop and comics, I'd say there's like three kinds of ways that you can go about it. A rapper referencing a comic character in a lyric, the album art or promotional material being drawn by comic artists or being inspired directly from a comic, and then just the both of them working together. The first one honestly doesn't give me much to talk about because it's like really broad and you can bring in a lot of rappers in with it, especially with superhero comics becoming more mainstream through the MCU. Any rapper can just have a bar referencing either a Marvel movie or really popular comic book character. And I'll throw up some examples on screen right now. So with all of that, the biggest rapper in the world naming his album after a comic book character isn't really that crazy. Anyways, when it comes to that second link, however, there's a lot less examples to discuss, but obviously I can go a bit more in depth into them. Now the big one, of course, is in my opinion, the GOAT, MF Doom. I don't know how much I can say about this guy that hasn't already been said, and stuff that I haven't said because this is my favorite rapper ever. Doom used samples from comic book shows and films throughout his career. He used panels for instrumental albums. Blake Lethem, one of his friends, traced a picture of Doctor Doom from a Fantastic Four show for his very first album cover, Operation Doomsday. And just like his whole iconography is based off of the Fantastic Four characters, with one of his other friends even taking on the moniker of Mr. Fantastic in one of Doom's biggest songs. Enough said. Around the same era, you've also got the Wu-Tang Clan. Now, if you know Wu-Tang, you'll know that they've got alter egos. Some of these are just taken directly from comic book characters. Ghostface has Tony Stark's and Iron Man, with his albums even having similar names, and Method Man has Johnny Blaze. Then you've got the bars referencing comic characters, which all of these guys have. Anyways, you've also got Liquid Swords, one of the greatest albums ever, and it has a cover drawn by Dennis Cohen, who's a very influential comic book writer who worked at Milestone. Also, while we're on the topic of drawn album covers, let's talk about Lil Uzi Vert. Now, I don't really know if Scott Pilgrim is considered niche per se, but I wanted to bring some variation rather than just talking about the big two of comics. Lil Uzi Vert and their albums, Lil Uzi Vert vs. the World 1 and 2, and The Perfect Love Tape. All three of these feature artwork from the Scott Pilgrim series, which was drawn by Brian O'Malley, with the former two even sharing the title of Versus the World. The albums are just panels taken straight from the comics, drawn over, similar to Operation Doomsday. So yeah, you've got so many of these album covers that are drawn by comic artists, and these are just a couple of examples. Once again, I'll throw up more on screen. And while not both being comic artists, the first two Outkast albums, AT Aliens and Aquemini, were also both very comic book inspired, taking the design straight from retro comics, being drawn by Frank Gomez, who was a comic book artist, and Greg Hawkins. Now finally, this brings me to the third way in which I link these two. Just actual collaborations between rappers/producers and comic companies. Sometimes comics get additional reprints with different covers on the front, just because. Marvel did a run of variant covers where they recreated classic rap albums, and Alex Alonso, the editor-in-chief at Marvel at the time, told CBR, which is a comic company, in case you're not aware, that, quote, "This variant program is an opportunity to show not only my love for hip-hop culture, but also the love of so many in Marvel's freelance community. Hip-hop inspires a lot of us. It is the musical score for a lot of our lives. This comes from a place of love." Yeah, it absolutely does. If you've seen any of these comic covers, they are so cool. Like Miles Morales has one of Illmatic, and unfortunately they didn't do one for Doctor Doom and MF Doom. but this isn't on my script, by the way. But they did have a comic book for Doom recently, which had a reference to MF Doom, which I will throw up on screen right now as well. I really hope I remember to throw all of these up because I'm just saying this. I haven't edited the video yet, so hopefully I remember to do that. Anyways, you've also got Eminem appearing alongside the Punisher in comic books, and I feel like that's a very good transition into soundtracks. Now, Eminem obviously made that song for the Venom film, but let's talk about fun stuff, okay? I don't really want to talk about that song. The two Spider-Verse films both, of course, had amazing soundtracks with rappers featured throughout, like Nas, Lil Wayne, etc. With the second one being spearheaded by Metro Boomin, who of course has heavy superhero theming throughout his discography, with an album literally called Superheroes and Villains. Then you've got K-Dot spearheading the Black Panther soundtrack, which led to some genuinely amazing music. Both of those ventures did. And it's not just the music as well. Obviously, Childish Gambino does a ton. He's an actor, singer, rapper, comedian, etc. But fun fact, he's also the reason we got Miles Morales. Around the time of the second Spider-Man reboot, after Tobey Maguire's films, people wanted to see Donald Glover as the next Spider-Man. But obviously, Andrew Garfield ended up playing Spider-Man in the Amazing Spider-Man films, which kind of sucks. But Community, one of my favorite shows ever, also referenced this fan campaign. But then, after seeing this campaign, Brian Michael Bendis, amazing comic book writer, decided to make Miles Morales. And yeah, that's history. It is so cool that we got this from a fan campaign. And while it does suck that we didn't get Donald Glover as Spider-Man, he then got to play Miles in the Ultimate Spider-Man show. And he gets to play his uncle in the Spider-Verse films and the MCU films. Also, real quick, while I'm on Donald Glover, him and his brother tried to make a Deadpool anime, which doesn't really have that much relevance, but it's just another link. And unfortunately, that didn't work out. Because obviously it didn't work out. We can't have nice things. Yeah, I'll also throw up test footage if that goes through copyright. If it doesn't, I'll probably just throw up footage of Deadpool anyways. So obviously, people who love their art forms love to work together. And outside of their circles, that's obvious. So seeing stuff like this shouldn't be that surprising. But outside of just talented people wanting to work with other talented people, there's more connections here. I want to bring up something with a little more depth as the final point of this video. More so, I want to discuss why hip-hop and comics have so much shared history. Now, a lot of this video has been taken from an article I read, supplemented with my own info, because, as I said, I'm very into rap and comic books. So I've linked the article below, and I bring that up now, because this next part is going to be a lot of talking points from that article. And yeah, make sure to read the article, because it was a really good read, and it informed a lot of my opinions on this. So, both of these mediums come from places of oppression. Comic books came from the Great Depression, and you've got Superman, the champion of the oppressed. You've got Captain America punching Hitler before Americans even entered the war. You've got the X-Men, who are a commentary on racism and public ostracization. Comics are about oppression, and are inherently political. Anyone who tries to tell you otherwise is either trying to run a narrative that you should ignore, or is not properly informed. That's just the facts. And just like that, hip-hop also comes out of oppression. The four pillars of hip-hop are graffiti, DJing, MCing, and breakdancing. And while that's not entirely at the forefront today, that is what hip-hop started on. Expression. People using the music to talk about their struggle. That's what NWA did, and then they got people mad at them. But more than that, they talked about their real lives, their lives in Compton. Things that happen on the street. And rappers continue doing that. Tupac, Nas, Andre 3000, Kendrick Lamar. You get the gist. I've mentioned a lot of rappers in this video. You know what I'm talking about. Both these art forms are about expression, as art is in general. But, as both of them are kind of new to their respective art forms, they share that link as well. Comics aren't looked at the same as quote-unquote real literature. And rap is often seen by conservatives as urban, ghetto, pretty much everything Samuel L. Jackson said during the Super Bowl to mock those kinds of people. That's a big thing I want to talk about here. Both of them kind of get disrespected as art. Think about your English teacher telling you to read books and telling you that comics don't count, or people saying that rap isn't music. Both of these art forms provide people the opportunity to tell stories in a way that's right to them, and they make for some very poignant work. Allegories, analogies, music that can sit with you. But due to their relative youth as art forms, and just the fact that they're immature, they get overlooked. But other than their similarities in origin, why is it that so many people in the hip-hop community gravitate towards comics? Well, it's kind of obvious, isn't it? The same reason everyone else in minority groups finds solace in stuff that they can relate to. Now, there's a point here to also be made about black nerds, fandom, and a lot of stuff related to culture, which is a brand kid from Australia I don't really want to touch, but in general, Comic books are just like hip hop is an art form built on storytelling, constantly overlooked. You've got songs that tell poignant stories and concept albums that do the same throughout. And at the same time, you've got comics doing that. There's a lot more to touch on in terms of history and connections, but like when it comes down to it, escapist fiction is amazing. And comic books were cheap back then, I think. So everyone could read them, and yeah, that's how all this comes together. Both these art forms in recent times have grown a lot in popularity, and funnily enough, both are kind of in a decline. Like, it kind of happened around the same time. For a while, hip hop was the music genre, and then people are talking about how the mainstream is dead. But in my opinion, neither of them are really going to go anywhere. Stuff happens. Mainstream rap will come back, comics will stop doing stupid stuff with their characters and letting editorial meddle, and we'll have these two amazing art forms for us to enjoy. Rappers love comics. That's just it. I don't really have anything else to say about it. So, like, if you've got anything to add, the comments are right there. And stay comical. Bye bye. Also, let me quickly just talk about, yes, I've been gone for a long, long time. School. And then for a while, I was kind of uninspired to make YouTube videos. But I am back properly this time. I'm like, I've got plans and I've got a lot of videos that are already scheduled. So if you're a actual fan of my work, which I don't think there are any, I think my entire audience is just my family, friends, and people who sometimes watch this stuff. Yeah, stick around because there is a lot to come in the next month or so. Yeah, thank you. Stay comical. Bye bye.